Hey guys, here is the Poco X7 Pro with the latest Dimensity 8400 Ultra chip, and in this video, I'll be testing several games on it to find out how good it is as a gaming phone. So without any further ado, let's get started with the gaming test. First, let's quickly go through the benchmark scores. In Geekbench tests, the scores are quite impressive, and compared to the best chips in its price range, it scores slightly lower in single core but much higher in multi-core test. In 3D Mark GPU tests, this phone scores in the range of the iPhone 15 Pro, which is again very impressive and also supports ray tracing. Also, compared to the other chips, this is significantly more powerful. And with Antutu, the overall scores are pretty good, and compared to the other chips, there is a decent increase in score. Even in sustained performance tests, this phone does a very good job with more than 75% stability in both CPU and GPU. Starting with the gaming test, first is Fortnite. This game supports a max of 60 FPS with all the graphical bells and whistles. However, it does not support the FPS tool I use to monitor and record the frame rate, so you have to go by this tiny FPS meter provided by this game. Overall, I find the gameplay to be pretty smooth and responsive. Now let's fast forward 15 minutes. Even now, I didn't notice any reduction in performance, so this game runs well on this phone. However, I hope that we get the 90 FPS option in the future. Next is BGMI or PUBG. Again here, the maximum frame rate is 60 FPS, so we are playing in HDR graphics instead of smooth graphics. The gameplay is very smooth and responsive, which is pretty obvious given how powerful this phone is. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Even now, the game is very smooth. I just hope that this phone gets the 90 and 120 FPS options soon, as this phone is way too powerful for 60 FPS, even with HDR graphics. Next is Call of Duty, and fortunately, here we get the 120 FPS option with medium graphics. As expected, the game is buttery smooth and responsive. "15 minutes later, we have played 3 rounds and still the phone is going strong, with no signs of slowing down. You can see that the frame rate throughout has been very close to 120 FPS, so great gaming experience overall. Next is Asphalt Legends Unite with all the settings maxed out. This game looks visually stunning with all its fancy water droplets and god rays, and there is not even a hint of lag or stutter. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Unsurprisingly, the performance is maintained with no issues. You can see that the average frame rate is very close to 60 FPS, and the drops in frame rate are during loading screens and not actual gameplay. So again, no issues with this game on the Poco X7 Pro. Now the Scarx Street is one of the most demanding games on Android, and we are playing it on the highest graphics. As you can see, the frame rate is not at all stable. I was kind of expecting this, as even the latest and greatest Snapdragon 8 Elite and Dimensity 9400 cannot guarantee a consistent frame rate in this game on all phones. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Okay, things are not looking good. The variation in frame rate is pretty massive. In some areas, the frame rate is in the 50s and sometimes even 60 FPS, but in some areas, it goes even below 30 FPS. So if you want a smoother frame rate on this phone, you'll have to lower a few graphical settings. Next is again a pretty demanding game, Genshin Impact. Playing at the highest graphics, this game feels very smooth and responsive, which is really impressive. I think this is the first phone under 30,000 rupees to provide a constant 60 FPS in Genshin Impact. Let's see if it can maintain the frame rate after 15 minutes. Fortunately, it does. I didn't notice any reduction in performance. It feels just as smooth as it did 15 minutes back. And you can see that the average frame rate is pretty much 60 FPS. so I am very impressed. Now we test Zenless Zone 0. This is again a very demanding game and we are playing it at the highest graphics. Okay, so the game feels quite smooth, but it has a little bit of stutter here and there. Let's see how it holds up after some time. Even now, it is playing quite well, but there is an occasional stutter. You can see that the average frame rate is still in the high 50s, so it's quite playable. Now we are playing Wuthering Waves at the highest settings. This game is quickly becoming a favorite of mine as the action looks and feels so cool and energetic. Fortunately, this phone is able to keep up with all of it. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Even now, the game feels very smooth and responsive. And as you can see, the average frame rate is very close to 60 FPS. That's extremely impressive. I also tried Grid Legends and Call of Duty Warzone, but both games kept crashing. Hopefully, they'll get supported soon. Okay, so to conclude, this is a ridiculously powerful phone for around 25,000 rupees. So if you're looking for a gaming beast on a budget, look no further. These are early days for this brand new chip, but with some optimizations, all the games should run well on this phone. Alright, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel down below. Thanks for watching.